Chapter 1: The First Humans and the Dawn of Stone Tools. Millions of years ago, long before anything resembling modern humans existed, early hominin ancestors in Africa began shaping simple stone tools, striking one rock against another to create sharp edges useful for cutting, scraping, and processing food. This early technology marking humanity's first significant technological achievement. These earliest stone tools, dating back roughly 2.5 million years, belong to what archaeologists call the Older One tradition. Simple flaked stones that, while primitive by later standards, represented genuinely revolutionary technological innovation for early hominin species navigating challenging African landscapes. Over subsequent hundreds of thousands of years, tool-making techniques gradually became more sophisticated, later hominin species developing increasingly refined stone-working methods, creating hand axes and other specialized tools requiring greater skill, planning, and understanding of stone's particular fracturing properties. Homo erectus, emerging roughly 2 million years ago, represented a significant evolutionary development. This early human species, possessing notably larger brains than earlier ancestors, alongside increasingly sophisticated tool-making abilities, and, eventually, the crucial mastery of controlled fire use. This species also achieved something remarkable for its time, successfully migrating beyond Africa into Asia and eventually parts of Europe. This expansion demonstrating genuine adaptability and resourcefulness. Early humans gradually learning to survive across dramatically different climates and environmental conditions. Neanderthals, emerging later and adapted specifically for colder European and Central Asian environments, developed their own sophisticated tool-making traditions and cultural practices. Recent research revealing surprising complexity in Neanderthal behavior, including possible symbolic thinking and careful burial practices. Our own species, Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa roughly 300,000 years ago, gradually developing increasingly sophisticated cognitive abilities, complex language, and cultural practices that would eventually distinguish modern humans from earlier hominin ancestors and contemporary related species. Early Homo sapiens groups gradually expanded beyond Africa, eventually encountering and, evidence suggests, sometimes interbreeding with Neanderthal populations already established throughout Europe and parts of Asia. This genetic legacy still detectable in many modern human populations today. This long, gradual process of human evolution and technological development, stretching across millions of years, established the fundamental physical and cognitive foundations that would eventually support increasingly sophisticated Stone Age cultures throughout the world. Chapter 2: Mastering Fire. The controlled use of fire represents one of humanity's most transformative early achievements. Archaeological evidence suggesting some early fire use stretching back perhaps 1 million years, though reliable, consistent fire mastery likely developed more gradually across subsequent hundreds of thousands of years. Before controlled fire use, early humans faced considerably harsher nighttime conditions, vulnerable to cold, darkness, and predators. Fire's gradual mastery providing crucial warmth, protection, and light that fundamentally transformed possibilities for nighttime activity and overall survival. Learning to reliably start fires rather than simply maintaining naturally occurring flames from lightning strikes represented a separate, significant technological achievement. Early humans eventually developing techniques including friction-based methods and striking flint against pyrite to reliably generate sparks. Cooking food through fire dramatically improved nutritional accessibility, heat breaking down tough plant fibers and proteins, making numerous foods considerably easier to digest and absorb. This dietary transformation possibly supporting the energy demands of gradually increasing human brain size across evolutionary time. Fire also extended meaningful daily activity beyond simple daylight hours, evening firelight enabling continued tool-making, social interaction, and various practical tasks. This extension of usable time representing genuinely significant advancement in early human daily capability and cultural development. Archaeological sites containing ancient hearths, alongside burned animal bones and heat-treated stone tools, provide crucial evidence helping researchers trace fire's gradual, increasingly widespread adoption across different early human populations and geographic regions throughout the Stone Age period. Fire also likely played important social and cultural roles beyond purely practical survival function, gathering spaces around shared fires, providing opportunities for social bonding, communication, and the gradual development of increasingly complex group cultural practices and shared knowledge transmission. Protection from predators represented another crucial fire benefit, most dangerous animals naturally avoiding flame and smoke. This protective function allowing early human groups somewhat greater security during vulnerable nighttime hours compared to communities lacking reliable fire access. This gradual mastery of fire, developing across enormous spans of prehistoric time, fundamentally transformed human capability and daily experience, establishing practical foundations that would support increasingly sophisticated Stone Age cultural and technological development throughout subsequent millennia. Chapter 3: The Art of Stone Toolmaking. Stone toolmaking, called knapping, required genuine skill developed through extensive practice, early humans learning to select appropriate stone materials, typically flint, chert, or obsidian, valued specifically for their predictable fracturing properties when struck with precise, controlled force. The basic knapping process involved striking a stone core with a harder hammerstone, carefully controlling angle and force to remove sharp flakes. These flakes then potentially refined further into specific tool shapes suited for particular cutting, scraping, or piercing purposes. Different tool types served distinct practical purposes within daily Stone Age life, hand axes proving useful for heavy cutting and chopping tasks, scrapers helping process animal hides, while smaller, sharper flakes served more delicate cutting tasks, requiring greater precision and control. Tool-making skill developed gradually through careful practice and observation. Experienced toolmakers within any given community typically teaching younger members. This knowledge transfer representing crucial cultural continuity, ensuring practical survival skills passed reliably across generations. Later Stone Age periods saw increasingly sophisticated tool-making techniques emerge, including pressure flaking, using bone or antler tools to carefully remove small, precise flakes. This refined technique allowing creation of remarkably sophisticated, symmetrical tools requiring considerable skill and patience. Specialized tools eventually emerged for increasingly specific purposes, including finely crafted projectile points for hunting, specialized woodworking tools, and eventually, tools specifically designed for creating other tools, this specialization reflecting increasingly sophisticated understanding of different materials and their practical applications. Bone, antler, and ivory also served as important tool-making materials alongside stone, these organic materials allowing creation of needles, fish hooks, and other specialized implements that stone alone couldn't easily provide. This material diversity reflecting sophisticated practical resourcefulness. Trade networks eventually developed for particularly valuable tool-making materials, certain high-quality stone sources becoming genuinely valuable resources, archaeological evidence revealing these materials sometimes traveled considerable distances from their original geological sources to eventual tool creation and use. This gradual technological refinement across the Stone Age's enormous time span demonstrates remarkable accumulated human ingenuity. Early humans developing increasingly sophisticated practical solutions through patient experimentation, careful skill development, and reliable knowledge transmission across countless generations. Chapter 4: Hunting and Gathering. The daily search for food. Stone Age communities relied entirely on hunting and gathering for sustenance. This lifestyle requiring detailed practical knowledge about local plants, animals, and seasonal patterns that modern humans, accustomed to agricultural and industrial food systems, would find genuinely challenging to replicate successfully. Plant gathering typically provided the more reliable, consistent food source across most environments, requiring detailed botanical knowledge about which plants offered nutrition during different seasons, which parts were edible, and crucially, which plants remained genuinely dangerous or poisonous. This plant knowledge represented substantial accumulated wisdom, passed carefully between generations through direct teaching and observation. Women within many Stone Age societies, often specializing particularly in this detailed botanical knowledge, essential for reliable daily food security. Hunting activities varied considerably, depending on available game, environmental circumstances, and seasonal patterns. Smaller hunting efforts sometimes targeting rabbits, birds, or fish using simple spears, traps, or nets, while larger cooperative hunts occasionally pursued bigger game requiring coordinated group strategy. Successful large-game hunting required genuine skill and careful group coordination, hunters developing detailed knowledge about animal behavior patterns, effective tracking techniques, and strategic hunting approaches that maximized success while minimizing genuine physical danger during these challenging encounters. Fishing represented another important food source wherever water access allowed. Early humans developing various techniques including simple spears, woven traps, and eventually hooks crafted from bone or antler, this resource providing valuable protein alongside terrestrial hunting and plant gathering. Seasonal variations significantly influenced daily food strategies throughout the year. Warmer months typically bringing greater food abundance and variety, while colder seasons required careful resource management, food preservation, and sometimes challenging periods of genuine scarcity requiring resourceful adaptation. Food sharing within Stone Age communities served important social functions beyond simple practical necessity. Successful hunters typically sharing meat throughout the broader group. This cooperative sharing reinforcing social bonds while ensuring more reliable, equitable food distribution across entire communities. This sophisticated hunting and gathering lifestyle, requiring extensive practical knowledge and genuine skill, successfully sustained human communities for hundreds of thousands of years, representing remarkably effective, sustainable adaptation to diverse environmental circumstances across the ancient world. Chapter 5: Shelter, Clothing, and Surviving the Elements. Stone Age humans developed practical solutions for shelter that varied considerably depending on local environment, available materials, and whether communities maintained relatively permanent settlements or continued more mobile, migratory lifestyles following seasonal resource availability. Simple shelters often incorporated natural features, caves and rock overhangs providing valuable existing protection that required only modest additional modification. Archaeological evidence revealing extensive human use of such natural shelters across numerous prehistoric sites throughout different regions. Constructed shelters, where natural options weren't available, typically used locally available materials, branches, animal hides, and sometimes mammoth bones in certain regions, these structures providing basic protection from wind, rain, and temperature extremes using genuinely creative practical engineering. Clothing development represented another crucial adaptation, particularly important for human populations expanding into colder climate regions, early humans learning to process animal hides through careful scraping and treatment, creating functional garments providing essential protection from harsh weather conditions. Needle technology, crafted from bone or ivory, represented a significant advancement in clothing production, allowing more sophisticated, fitted garment construction compared to simply draping animal hides. This technological development likely supporting successful human expansion into increasingly cold environments. Fire, previously discussed, played crucial complementary roles alongside shelter and clothing, providing essential warmth that supplemented physical protection from constructed shelters and clothing. This combination of adaptations, allowing human survival across remarkably diverse, sometimes genuinely harsh environmental conditions. Settlement patterns varied considerably across different Stone Age periods and regions, some communities maintaining relatively permanent camps near reliable resources, while others continued more mobile lifestyles, seasonal migration allowing access to different resources as availability shifted throughout the year. Environmental adaptation required genuine practical ingenuity, different human populations developing distinct solutions suited to their particular local circumstances, from Arctic adaptations emphasizing maximum insulation to more temperate solutions balancing protection with practical mobility and resource access. This remarkable adaptability, allowing successful human survival across environments ranging from African savannas to European Ice Age landscapes, demonstrates genuine prehistoric human ingenuity and resourcefulness in developing practical solutions to diverse, often genuinely challenging environmental survival demands. Chapter 6: Social Structure and Community Life. Stone Age human communities typically organized around small, closely connected family and extended kinship groups. Archaeological and anthropological evidence suggesting these groups usually numbered between 20 and 50 individuals. This size balancing effective cooperation with practical resource sustainability. These small communities likely maintained relatively egalitarian social structures compared to later, more hierarchical societies. Though genuine leadership roles certainly existed, experienced hunters, skilled toolmakers, or individuals possessing particularly valuable knowledge, likely holding meaningful, if informal, social influence. Cooperation represented genuine practical necessity within these small communities. Successful hunting, gathering, and general survival requiring reliable coordination and mutual support. Isolated individuals facing considerably reduced survival prospects compared to those maintaining strong community connections. Child-rearing likely involved broader community participation beyond immediate parents alone. Extended family members and other community adults probably contributing to children's care and practical skill education. This cooperative approach reflecting genuine practical necessity within small, interdependent communities. Gender roles within Stone Age societies likely showed considerable variation and flexibility, while some general patterns probably existed, such as women often specializing in plant-gathering knowledge. Archaeological evidence increasingly suggests these roles weren't nearly as rigid as once commonly assumed. Communication and language likely reached sophisticated levels of development, even without written recording. Complex cooperative hunting strategies, detailed practical knowledge transmission, and rich cultural traditions requiring genuinely sophisticated linguistic communication capabilities among Stone Age human communities. Conflict and cooperation both likely existed between different Stone Age groups. Archaeological evidence suggesting both peaceful resource sharing and occasional genuine conflict, though the specific balance and frequency of cooperation versus conflict remains genuinely debated among researchers studying prehistoric social dynamics. Trade and exchange networks eventually developed, connecting different communities across sometimes considerable distances. Valuable materials, like particular stone types, shells, or other resources traveling far from their original sources. This exchange suggesting meaningful, sustained contact between different prehistoric groups. This sophisticated social organization, balancing cooperation, practical knowledge sharing, and genuine community interdependence, provided essential foundation supporting successful human survival and gradual cultural development throughout the long, challenging span of the Stone Age period. Chapter 7. Cave Art and Early Human Creativity. Among Stone Age humanity's most remarkable achievements, elaborate cave paintings and other artistic expressions reveal genuinely sophisticated symbolic thinking and creative capability. These ancient artworks offering rare, direct glimpse into prehistoric human cognitive and cultural development. The famous cave paintings at Lascaux in France, created roughly 17,000 years ago, depict detailed, remarkably skilled representations of horses, bulls, and other animals. This sophisticated artistic achievement demonstrating genuine technical skill alongside meaningful symbolic or ceremonial purpose. Similar remarkable cave art exists at numerous other sites, including Chauvet Cave, containing paintings potentially dating back over 30,000 years. These ancient artistic traditions revealing surprisingly early development of sophisticated representational artistic capability among prehistoric human communities. The purpose behind these elaborate cave paintings remains genuinely debated among researchers. Theories ranging from religious or spiritual ceremonial function, hunting magic intended to ensure successful future hunts, to genuine artistic expression and cultural storytelling passed down through visual rather than purely verbal tradition. Beyond cave paintings, Stone Age humans created various other artistic and symbolic objects, including carved figurines, decorated tools, and personal ornaments crafted from shells, bones, and teeth. These objects suggesting genuine aesthetic appreciation alongside possible symbolic or status-related significance. Venus figurines, small carved representations of female forms found across numerous European sites, represent particularly notable examples of prehistoric artistic expression, their specific meaning and purpose remaining genuinely uncertain, though clearly holding significant cultural or symbolic importance for their creators. Musical instruments also emerged during this period. Bone flutes, discovered at various archaeological sites, suggesting music played meaningful roles within Stone Age cultural life. This musical tradition, representing another sophisticated creative and likely social or ceremonial dimension of prehistoric human experience. Burial practices, particularly among later Stone Age populations, increasingly incorporated meaningful ceremonial elements, careful burial positioning, grave goods, and sometimes ochre pigment application, suggesting genuine spiritual beliefs and meaningful cultural practices surrounding death and its broader significance. This remarkable artistic and symbolic capability demonstrates that Stone Age humans possessed genuinely sophisticated cognitive abilities, creative expression, and meaningful cultural practices, challenging simplistic assumptions about prehistoric humanity as merely primitive survival-focused populations lacking genuine intellectual or artistic depth. Chapter 8: Migration Across Continents. Modern humans originating in Africa gradually expanded across virtually the entire habitable world during the Stone Age period. This remarkable migration representing one of history's most significant demographic transformations, humans successfully adapting to environments ranging from tropical rainforests to Arctic tundra. Early human migration out of Africa likely began around 70,000 years ago, though exact timing remains subject to ongoing scholarly debate. Small groups gradually expanding into the Middle East before eventually spreading further into Asia and, considerably later, into Europe and the Americas. This migration required genuine adaptability, human groups successfully adjusting hunting and gathering strategies, shelter construction, and clothing to dramatically different environmental conditions encountered across this long, gradual expansion into previously unfamiliar territories and climate zones. Coastal migration routes likely played significant roles in this expansion, evidence suggesting early humans followed coastlines, taking advantage of marine resources while gradually expanding their overall geographic range. This practical strategy, providing reliable food sources during long-distance migration. The peopling of the Americas represents a particularly significant, still actively researched migration event. Humans eventually crossing from Asia into North America, likely via a land bridge that existed during periods of lower sea levels, before gradually expanding throughout North and South America. Australia's initial human settlement, occurring perhaps 50,000 years ago or earlier, required successfully crossing significant open water. This achievement demonstrating genuinely sophisticated seafaring capability among early human populations, challenging assumptions about prehistoric technological limitations. Island settlement throughout the Pacific represented later, though still impressively early, human migration achievements. Various island chains gradually settled by skilled seafaring populations, developing increasingly sophisticated boat building and navigation techniques across many subsequent generations. Genetic evidence increasingly helps researchers trace these ancient migration patterns. DNA analysis from both ancient and modern human populations, revealing detailed insight into humanity's remarkable prehistoric expansion across virtually every habitable region of the entire world. This extraordinary migration achievement, accomplished using only Stone Age technology and practical human ingenuity, demonstrates remarkable adaptability and resourcefulness, early humans successfully establishing themselves across dramatically diverse environments throughout the ancient world during this long migratory period. Chapter 9. The Ice Age Challenge. Much of the later Stone Age period coincided with significant Ice Age conditions, particularly the last glacial maximum occurring roughly 20,000 years ago. This challenging climate period, requiring genuine human adaptability and resourcefulness to successfully survive dramatically colder global conditions. Ice Age Europe presented particularly challenging conditions. Vast ice sheets covering significant northern territories, while remaining habitable regions experienced considerably colder temperatures and different vegetation patterns compared to today, requiring genuine adaptation from human populations living throughout this challenging period. Human communities developed increasingly sophisticated cold weather survival strategies during this period. More effective clothing construction, better insulated shelters, and detailed knowledge about Ice Age megafauna, including mammoths, woolly rhinoceros, and other large animals, adapted to these cold conditions. Mammoth hunting represented a particularly significant Ice Age adaptation for some human populations, these massive animals providing substantial meat, hide, and bone resources. Some communities even constructing shelters partially from mammoth bones where wood remained scarce across open, treeless landscapes. Ice Age art, including the remarkable cave paintings previously discussed, often specifically depicted these cold-adapted megafauna, suggesting these animals held particular practical and possibly spiritual significance for human communities whose survival depended considerably on successful interaction with these challenging environments. Climate fluctuation throughout the broader Ice Age period required ongoing human adaptation, warmer interglacial periods alternating with colder glacial maximums, human populations adjusting settlement patterns, hunting strategies, and territorial ranges in response to these significant, sometimes rapid environmental changes. Some human populations likely faced genuine survival challenges during particularly harsh Ice Age periods. Archaeological evidence suggesting population fluctuations and occasional local extinctions in especially challenging regions, demonstrating genuine environmental pressure alongside successful broader human adaptability. As the Ice Age gradually ended, beginning roughly 15,000 years ago, warming global temperatures brought significant environmental transformation, melting ice sheets, changing vegetation patterns, and shifting animal populations, requiring further human adaptation to these substantial climatic changes. This challenging Ice Age period, despite its genuine difficulties, ultimately demonstrated remarkable human resilience and adaptability. Successful survival through such demanding conditions, establishing practical foundations that would eventually support the significant cultural and technological transformations still to come. Chapter 10: The Transition Toward Agriculture. As the Ice Age concluded and global climate gradually warmed and stabilized, human communities in various regions began experimenting with new approaches to food production. This gradual transition toward agriculture representing one of history's most transformative developments, fundamentally reshaping human society. The Fertile Crescent, encompassing parts of the modern Middle East, represents one of agriculture's earliest and most significant development centers. Human communities beginning to deliberately cultivate wild grain plants roughly 10,000 years ago, gradually developing increasingly effective farming techniques. This transition didn't happen suddenly, but rather gradually. Communities likely combining traditional hunting and gathering with increasing plant cultivation over many generations. This mixed strategy providing greater food security while communities gradually developed more sophisticated agricultural knowledge and techniques. Early agricultural communities began deliberately selecting and saving seeds from plants showing particularly desirable characteristics: larger grain size, easier harvesting, or better yield. This selective process continued across many generations, gradually transforming wild plants into recognizably domesticated agricultural crops. Animal domestication developed alongside plant cultivation, communities gradually taming and breeding wild animals, including sheep, goats, and cattle. These domesticated animals providing reliable sources of meat, milk, and other valuable resources beyond what wild hunting alone could consistently provide. This agricultural transition enabled increasingly permanent settlement patterns, communities no longer needing to migrate following seasonal wild food availability, instead establishing more permanent villages near cultivated fields. This settled lifestyle gradually enabling larger, more complex community populations. Agriculture also enabled food surpluses beyond immediate consumption needs. This surplus supporting population growth while also allowing some community members to specialize in non-food related activities. Early steps toward the more complex social and economic structures that would eventually characterize later civilizations. This transition occurred independently in multiple regions across the world. Communities in different parts of Asia, the Americas, and Africa developing agricultural practices somewhat independently, adapting cultivation techniques to their own particular local plants, animals, and environmental circumstances. The agricultural transition, while bringing genuine benefits, including greater food security and population growth, also introduced new challenges, including increased disease transmission from close animal contact and settled living, alongside new forms of social inequality that hadn't existed within earlier, smaller hunting and gathering communities. This gradual transformative shift from hunting and gathering toward agricultural life effectively marks the Stone Age's eventual conclusion, human societies beginning their long, continuing transition toward the increasingly complex agricultural and eventually urban civilizations that would characterize subsequent human history. Chapter 11: What Stone Age Life Teaches Us Today. Closing chapter. As we conclude this long journey through humanity's Stone Age origins, from earlier stone tools through fire mastery, artistic achievement, global migration, and eventual agricultural transition, it's worth reflecting on what this deep prehistoric past continues teaching us about fundamental human nature and capability. Stone Age humans, despite lacking writing, metal tools, or any of civilization's later technological achievements, demonstrated remarkable ingenuity, adaptability, and genuine sophistication in successfully navigating diverse, often genuinely challenging environmental circumstances across an enormous span of prehistoric time. The cooperative social structures developed during this period, emphasizing mutual support, knowledge sharing, and community interdependence, established fundamental patterns of human social organization that, in various evolved forms, continue shaping human communities and relationships even within our dramatically different modern context. Artistic and symbolic capability, evident in remarkable cave paintings and carved figurines, demonstrates that fundamentally human creative and spiritual impulses stretch back tens of thousands of years, suggesting these capabilities represent genuinely deep, foundational aspects of human cognitive and cultural experience. Modern archaeological and genetic research continues revealing increasingly detailed insight into this deep prehistoric past, our understanding of Stone Age human life growing more sophisticated and nuanced with each new discovery, challenging earlier, sometimes overly simplistic assumptions about prehistoric human capability. The remarkable human migration achievement, successfully settling virtually every habitable region across the entire world using only Stone Age technology, demonstrates genuine adaptability and resourcefulness that continues to impress researchers studying this extraordinary prehistoric demographic expansion and adaptation. Contemporary hunter-gatherer societies, while certainly not perfect historical analogies for ancient Stone Age communities, offer valuable additional insight into how small-scale, cooperative human communities can successfully organize daily life around fundamental practical needs without relying on agriculture or complex social hierarchy. Understanding this deep, prehistoric foundation provides valuable perspective on human nature more broadly, revealing capabilities for cooperation, creativity, and adaptability that predate and likely underlie much of what we consider distinctly human achievement throughout subsequent, more thoroughly documented historical periods. Perhaps most significantly, this exploration of Stone Age daily life reminds us that our distant ancestors, despite facing genuinely challenging circumstances very different from modern experience, successfully built meaningful lives filled with practical skill, genuine creativity, and close community connection across countless prehistoric generations. And so, as this long journey through humanity's deep prehistoric past finally settles toward its quiet close, let these ancient fires, careful stone tools, and remarkable cave paintings carry you now gently toward whatever peaceful rest awaits, following rhythms of daily life and nightly sleep that connect us, remarkably, to countless generations, stretching back into humanity's own patient, resourceful beginning.